Hello, everyone, and welcome to a quick demo of Reverse Match in ECAP. My name is Jennifer Sannon. I'm the VP of Intake and Placement, and I wanted to offer you a shorter demo that highlights just the feature of Reverse Match in our ECAP system. So as a reminder, the purpose of Reverse Match is to try and help fill your vacancies. So whether you are a CPA with foster homes, a shelter, a GRO, or an RTC, this function can be used to help identify kids who are currently on our intake list in need of placement that might fit your preferences. So all that information you've put in about your ages and genders and characteristics and behaviors you will work with or that you would consider working with can be taken into account to try and find youth on our intake list who meet those parameters. So I have our test system up right now. You can see on my screen here, I'm in our little ECAP test demo system. So be mindful, of course, this is not live production data. I have set up some kids for us to use and then some providers for us to use as well. So when you log into the system, what you are going to do is go to that search function. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to back up for just a second. Quick refresher on the intake page. These kids here are kids who are currently in need of placement. I do want to highlight, of course, that this is a sibling set of 3. That's why there's a group set out right here that you can see. And as a reminder, you can see a quick review of all of these kids: age, gender, race, county of jurisdiction, level of care, the date placements needed, and then, of course, the assigned intake staff. This down here, if you highlight over, has any notes that the intake staff have typed in when they put the kids on the list. So this just notes that this is a subgroup of 3, planned move, trying to put them together. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go to our search function up here, and I'm going to type in the name of a facility or program that I am trying to fill a vacancy for. So I'm going to start with a foster home. I'm going to pull up Michael and Nicole Brush, who is one of my foster families who has no placements right now and is in looking for kids for placement. You'll see all the preference information that's loaded in here. Now, keep in mind that this preference data comes from Gateway. So as you have completed preference data in Gateway for your programs, ages, genders, characteristics, etc., that information is flowing into ECAP. If you see something in here that is not correct or that needs to be modified, please make sure you go back to Gateway or to your home system if you're using an API and make those changes there. Because if you try and make any changes here in ECAP, first of all, I don't think you can. But secondly, if you do, it's going to get overridden by whatever's coming in. So please make sure if you do see something that you want changed based on provider preference information, you go back to either Gateway or your home system if you're using an API. All right. So if I want to find kids that fit the Brush's preferences for what we've put in, I'm going to go up here to the right where it says reverse match, and I'm going to click on that reverse match button. So what pops up then is a list of matching clients from our intake list. And remember that there are 3 tabs on here that are going to populate for you to look at and consider for placement. So that first tab is going to be your highly recommended. Youth who are on the highly recommended list are kids who match the provider's preferences under the will take category. So everything about these kids that's entered in our system is a will take on the preferences for this family. So they will take all the characteristics and behaviors that are entered for Pepper Potts and for Natalie Johansson. Okay. 5-year-old and a 15-year-old. You can see that information showing up. Now, if I'm interested in learning more about Pepper Potts, I do have to pop back over to my clients awaiting placement list, and then I can find Miss Pepper Potts, and I can click on the action button and view client assessment. Unfortunately, you cannot click from that matching list to see because you don't have access to the child's landing page. So you do have to do it from the intake page, but you can see which kids match and use that reverse match function to identify them. Okay. Then you can read the client assessment. No, the Common App is not unfortunately loaded anywhere in ECAP, but if you read through the client assessment, and you decide you want more information on this particular child, then you're welcome to reach out to the intake staff and ask for information. So in this case, that would be me. So you just reach out to Jennifer Sannon and say, hey, I'm interested in Pepper Potts, who's on the intake list. They were a match for my Brush foster home, and so I'd like to talk about that. So again, I'm going to go back to my search function. I'm going to type in the name of my foster home. I'm going to click on them. And then I can click the reverse match and I can get back to my matches that are up here. I also was a match for Natalie Johansson, who's a 15-year-old. So I could do the same thing, go back to the intake list and take a look at her information. Now, if for some reason those two kids don't pan out, I also have kids on the recommended match and kids on the other list. Now, the difference between these two is that on the recommended, you're going to start to see some will consider behaviors or characteristics. So now this is a mix of kids for whom the family is a match between will take and will consider. So for these three kids, they are a will consider match based on gender and age. And now the Brush family doesn't typically take males that age. And so that's why they're a will consider match for that particular age group. And they also tend to take older kids. And so that's why they're a will consider for the age as well. So that's why they're showing up under the will consider. But otherwise, they are a match for that family outside of those things. So I could still explore that as a possibility if I wanted to. Under the other clients, now you're going to start to see not only some will consider behaviors and characteristics show up, but you're also going to see some would not prefer. So this particular family doesn't take that age of males. I think their would consider max age was 8 for boys. And so Tony Ironman Stark is 9, so he's just outside of that age range. And then the 15-year-old, of course, is a little further outside that age range. Now, if I were still interested in exploring this for the family, I certainly can still do that. There's no reason I can't, but that just tells you right away where those kids and families don't quite match up, don't quite line up, okay? So let's try another family just so we can see that in action again. So I'm going to type in the Rose family, and I have Johnny and Moira Rose, who are also in need of placements. They don't currently have kids. Taking a look here, they have a capacity of 5, and they'll take boys and girls. And you can see the age range for their boys and the age range for the girls showing up on here. And then, of course, the rest of the characteristics we won't take the time to sort through, but get a general idea. We run a reverse match. And then we are faced with 4 highly recommended matching clients. So Little Miss Pepper Potts, our 5-year-old, is showing up again as a highly recommended match. But now we also have our 2 boys showing up as a highly recommended because they take that age of boys and characteristics, and our 15-year-old girl. Now, in this case, we don't have anybody on our recommended match, but we do have some other clients. So now we have this sibling group, and you'll notice that it's an age issue. I believe their age range started at 4 for both genders. And so that's why these kids are showing up on the other. Now, again, if for some reason you thought this family would be interested in these kids, there's no reason they can't take them. It's just that that's how they didn't match on the matching list. Okay. So if I go back to my highly recommended and say, for example, I'm interested in Bruce the Hulk Banner, I can make note of his name. I can go back to my clients awaiting placement list. I can find Bruce the Hulk Banner. I can click on action and view client assessment so that I can get a little bit more information about Bruce and his behaviors and characteristics. And I can just scroll all the way through here and look at all that information. Not going to do that right now, but you can read through the client assessment to get some additional detail on these kids and decide if you want to request Common App, Psych Eval, any other documentation that we might have on the youth available for you to review. Now, what if I am a facility? Same functionality if I'm a facility. So I'm going to type in my Good Ship Lollipop, which is my residential center that is in Dallas. And the preferred capacity is 12. It's a GRO that takes both boys and girls, and you can see the age range that we have there. So I am going to do the same thing, run a reverse match for them. Functionality works exactly the same for residential as it does for the foster homes, taking all the information that's been put in for that provider and matching it to our kids. Now, in this case, unfortunately, there's 0 highly recommended characteristics on here. And then we have some recommended. So now we have a mixture of will take and will consider characteristics for the kids that are on this list currently. Okay. So I can take a look at this information. Again, I have Bruce the Hulk Banner showing up as a possible match, and I have Natalie Johansson. And by the way, I've been doing this a little bit, but just know that all these columns, you can expand them a little bit. So if you need to make them a little bit smaller in order to see the rest of those, you can see there's quite a list of behaviors. But if I highlight over it like that, it also pops up for me too. So if I just kind of put my cursor on it, I can see it all pop up a little easier. So that goes over to the side. So that is how you're going to run a reverse match. And again, you can always come back to this client's awaiting placement list to be able to see the list of kids who are currently in need of placement. All of these columns up here are sortable. So if you're looking for a particular age or genders, or you want to see what kids from your counties are currently in need of placement. You can sort by county. You can sort by level of care. These are expandable too as well. We encourage you to get in here to look at the intake list and to run those reverse matches for any facility or program that you might have an opening so that we can identify matches and serve our kids. We thank you so much for being here. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.